Hey, we got a big football game in Athens, Georgia this weekend. Lane Train versus Kirby, first time. And, since they've been head coaches. And they coached together in 2015 at Alabama. Yeah. In 2014. So they know all about each other. Lane's trying to get the group text going, but Kirby will not respond. I don't know what to say about that either. But they all know each other. Obviously, Will Muschamp on the staff. Golding's tied in there. It's beautiful. Ole Miss, number 9 Ole Miss, number 2 Georgia. We welcome in Bill Shanks, Georgia Insider, Sports Talk Radio out of Macon, Georgia. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bill Shanks, good morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Good morning, Bob.
Brock Bowers, is he playing?
Yes. Yeah, I think so, and I don't know how much. I don't know if it's for one play just to stir the crowd up, but from all indications, he's on track. Of course, I mean, they've got 3 days to make the determination. I mean, he's pushing the play. He's, from all accounts, doing everything in his power to convince Kirby to allow him to play, including by running well at practice and doing the things that you have to do to convince your coach you're ready to go. I mean, Bo, if this wasn't the last home game of the season, would it be as big of an urgency for him to do this? No. I really believe it's much about the fact that this is the last home game, more than likely, for him at Sanford Stadium at Dooley Field, and he wants to play. He's just kid's different, man. These kids, these players, these athletes are just different, or just kind of wacko. I mean, I don't want to call it Michael Jordan-like, but, they just do things differently. They play through pain differently. They recover differently because of this surge in their heart. I mean, it's weird to see, but, I mean, they started to have a little buzz about this last week, and I'm like, come on, if you want to try to get him back for Tennessee, okay, but give me a break. And I was like, heck, get him back if you go to the SEC championship game, but it's just different.
Wow. Bill Shanks, Georgia Sports Talk Radio, Bulldogs Insider on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. He believes that Brock Bowers will play. How much? Who knows? He is generational. Bill, I mean, you have to put it – y'all have had some great, great players come through the program for decades. He's one of the most talented guys y'all have ever had step on that field.
No question. No, I mean, if you want to say Herschel Walker, you can have a debate about that over the course of the last 50 years. Is Herschel Walker the best player overall or the best running back overall? There's no doubt he's in the conversation. We're going to look back on Brock Bowers' 3 years in Georgia and say, and especially, Bo, if they win the national championship game, and again, and in his 3 years, they win 3 national championships, and he played at an elite level every time he stepped on the field, I mean, that even accelerates the conversation about his legacy. But from a talent perspective, this kid just – it's kind of funny to watch. And I know we've watched the press box over the last couple of years and just kind of almost laughed out loud, LOL'd, because we see him do things. I think the biggest thing I remember last year, I can't remember against who, he ran the ball for 75 yards, and he was streaking down the field, and it looked like Herschel Walker running down the daggum field. And everybody in the press box was just kind of laughing out loud because here's this big kid just taking off. And so, yeah, his talent level is just such an elite status, and yeah, he's in the conversation, and I think you could say, well, if Herschel Walker was the best running back ever played at Georgia, there's no question that I think you could say Brock Bowers is not only the best tight end at Georgia, but the best pass catcher in Georgia history.
He's unbelievable. What's he like as a person?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't go to dinner with him, but I mean, I've heard things about how humble he is, and he's. I know I've heard someone told me that their kids at Georgia, and that Brock's very, very shy and tries to kind of protect himself, which I can't imagine being a big man on campus like him walking around the big campus. I mean, it's got to be kind of different these days with social media compared to back in the day, but from all accounts, he is a great teammate, a great kid. I mean, I've never heard a bad word about him. He's just For a Californian, he sounds pretty good.
Yeah. We're visiting with Bill Shanks, Georgia insider, on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. All right, Ole Miss offensive line versus Georgia defensive line. Handicap the matchup for me. What are you looking for here?
Well, the Georgia defensive front is so experienced, Bo. There's a ton of snaps, a ton of games started. Those guys. There's not a Jalen Carter. I don't think we're going to have, Nazir Stackhouse pick up Jackson Dart and throw him around like what we saw with Jalen Carter last year. But there's experience. And the one thing, I said this on my show yesterday, and I continue to think that this is just the most unbelievable stat to me of the entire year. In the Florida game, which obviously got out of hand in the second quarter, so this allowed for this to some extent. But there were 10 defensive linemen that played for Georgia. Not one had 45% or more of the snaps. So you're talking about a steady rotation of trying to get people in there and to stay fresh and to just let people come in and out of that game. And the depth that's there is really good. Again, not a Jalen Carter, not a Jordan Davis, not a Jacoby Dean, not a Roquan Smith, but really good football players. I don't even know how many, I think the only first-round draft pick slam dunk on that defense right now is Malachi Starks. Maybe another one, but I don't know about that. I think, again, we knew a year ago how many Georgia defenders were first-rounders. We knew it 2 years ago. This year, Malachi Starks at some point. So you've got really good, solid football players that cumulatively have put together a great defense. It's just a different, again, when you've got a player like a Jalen Carter or a Jordan Davis, that's different. You've got to keep your eye on that player the entire game. This is not that kind of defense, but this is a number of players who can do things and come out of the backfield, defensive backfield, and stop you. So, I heard somebody the other day say, well, Georgia's front seven is not as good as Alabama's. Well, I think that's because Alabama has Dallas Turner. Georgia doesn't have a Dallas Turner per se, but to knock the cumulative group of Georgia front seven is a mistake. They're good. They're really good.
Where does Kiffin find a weakness, or how?
Well, I think what to watch is Jackson Dart's ability to run the football. I think the chess game, Bo, between Kirby and Will and Lane is going to be in what Georgia does to try to limit Jackson and to know that Quinshon's there. And that, to me, is going to be interesting. I think even good defenses can have problems with running quarterbacks. Running quarterbacks, and everybody points to Peyton Thorne running for, I don't know what it was, 55 yards against Auburn. Well, that's the best play from scrimmage for Auburn all year long, probably. But that doesn't mean that Georgia's defense is leaky. But I still think running quarterbacks are something that can give Georgia some trouble. So I think that's where if Lane wants to push the button, I think he's going to push that one early to see how vulnerable that can be to maybe where he can open it up to where he can start chucking it down the field to Trey Harris a little bit down the road in the game.
All right. Bill Shanks, Macon, Georgia, Sports Talk Radio. Georgia insider. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. We're talking Ole Miss, number 9, Ole Miss, number 2, Georgia, this weekend, Saturday night in Athens. All right, let's flip it over. Let's go to Carson Beck and Bobo against Pete Golding and the Ole Miss defense. Now, how impressed are you, or do you still think there's a lot more growth to be had with what Beck and Bobo have done this year?
Well, I think there is more to do. I think he doesn't have the ability to do all of it when Brock's not 100%, because that's a big gun, bullet in your gun. You plan all year long to do things with him, and he's not there. But Oscar Delp, the young tight end, is going to be a great tight end. He's not going to be Brock Bowers, but that kid's going to be really, really good. He may be a day 2 draft pick by the time he's through in the NFL draft. But the thing with Georgia, Bo, is the depth at receivers is ridiculous. Truly ridiculous. They have Ladd McConkey being healthy has been unbelievable. I want to say this, and I know Ole Miss fans and non-Georgia fans are going to say, man, this is cocky, what cocky Georgia got. So they haven't, quote unquote, missed Brock Bowers one bit in 2 games. Okay? And now, would it be better for him to be there? Well, of course. Missing him, no. Now, if they would have lost one of those 2 games, we may have said, well, they missed Brock Bowers. But Ladd McConkey, Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, you've got Marcus Roseman-Jackson, you've got Arian Smith, you've got, again, Oscar Delp, the other tight end. I mean, you're talking about an unbelievable quantity of pass catchers that are options for Carson Beck. And so Carson Beck and Ladd McConkey were even closer friends than Ladd was with Stetson. And Stetson and Ladd were very good friends. Carson and Ladd have they've just spent more time together over the years, I think. And so Ladd McConkey, 3-star prospect coming out of high school, this kid is awesome. He is a tremendous football player. And, heck, I think he's going to be a day 2 draft pick in the draft from what the mock drafts say. And that's because this kid delivers. He is – if Carson Beck gets in trouble, he used to concede before the injury, where's 19, and throw the ball to him. So now he's got Ladd McConkey there, and it's almost as dangerous. He's an outstanding college football player. So, I mean, that, and look, Dejon Edwards has gotten better by the week as far as leading that run game. And here's the other thing. Again, the depth that Kirby's built up. And again, I know this sounds cocky. But, Bo, they lost Amarius Mims 6 weeks ago to the same ankle injury that Brock Bowers had. And Amarius Mims was being talked about as a top 10 draft pick in mock drafts before the season. They haven't missed him. I mean, that depth on that offensive line, it's like, well, how are we going to get Amarius Mims back in the fold there? I mean, they played great on that offensive line. So and Bobo, I think, is doing a great job. It's a real dangerous offense. It can really click well.
Bill Shanks, Georgia Insider, talking Rebels Dogs Saturday night. First time Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart have coached against each other. Bill, is 10.5 too many, or will Georgia cover?
Well, I think it's about right. I would be a little uncomfortable if it was more than that. But look, I think part of it is obviously Georgia's at home, last home game, night game is going to be, they're going to be drinking all damn day long. They're going to be drunk as heck. Kirby's asking them to come be loud, and they are. This is the last home game of the season, and we haven't had a great home schedule for Georgia this year, so it's not been good. And I'm telling you, if Brock Bowers walks on out of that field, it may be the loudest that stadium's ever been. They'll go nuts, and Brock Bowers knows that. Kirby Smart knows that. But look, Georgia is to the point where Alabama has been in the past. They're going to get pushed. And Ole Miss is going to push this football team. I think everybody has tremendous respect for Ole Miss, just like we had a tremendous respect last week for Missouri. Missouri's a really good football team. But you've got to beat Georgia for 60 minutes. And I go back to what happened, Georgia's tied with Auburn. Georgia's losing to South Carolina early. That's nice. It's like Alabama. Oh, God, they're down 20-7 to Tennessee. What happened in the second half? You got to beat these elite teams for 60 minutes. At some point, Bo, it'll happen. I hope it's like in 2035. I hope it's extended for a long time. At some point, it will happen. But, Bo, these teams have got to play an elite game at an elite level for 60 minutes. And, look, the last time that they lost in Athens was in 2019 when Will Muschamp was the coach of South Carolina. And I'm telling you one thing, that's probably one of the most influential games in Kirby Smart's history, because I don't think he's had his team play at that low of a level since.
Wow. I remember that game. All right. So they're confident, as they should be, over in Athens. And they may or may not have the best team in the country, but they've got a hell of a football team. And they're on Caesars right now, they're a 10.5-point favorite. Although that line has bounced around this week, which is interesting to monitor. All right, buddy. Thanks for the time today, and have a great weekend, man. Enjoy the game.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Bill Shanks, Macon, Georgia, Sports Talk Radio, Georgia Insider. Brock Bowers, Jason, how do you feel about that? Sounds like he's pretty damn healthy, and it's senior day or whatever he is, whatever it is now with junior, whatever. Last home game for this year. Brock Bowers And, Aaron Rodgers is 20 years older than Brock Bowers and snapped his Achilles.
Yeah.
And he's walking out on the field before Jets games and throwing the damn football.
55-yard bombs on a torn Achilles.
What?
But somebody, please, if you're an Ole Miss fan and you're hearing this and you'll be in Athens, if you can find Brock Bowers' car keys, take them and hide them.
Okay.
Anything you can do to keep him away from the stadium. I know he'll get an Uber, which we just talked about. Very easy nowadays.
Right.
Whatever you could do, slash his tire.
With his NIL money, he can get a driver.
Yeah. I mean, anything you can, or maybe set up a roadblock or something. Like, keep him away from the stadium. That makes me so nervous. This whole week, I'm like, Brock Bowers isn't playing. Ole Miss is going in. Georgia isn't the best against a running quarterback. Ooh, I'm getting my hopes up. So I'm doing what I do every year.
Right.
And then I think here comes the sledgehammer.
Okay.
And that sledgehammer is Brock Bowers. And look, I get it. He's not going to be 100%.
6'4", 240 from Napa, California. No wonder he's so good. He's from wine country.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but I get it. He's not going to be 100%. 50% Brock Bowers is still the best tight end in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like, that's so dangerous. So maybe, let's just hope Bill Shanks is, reading the wrong board or something, and maybe he comes out without pads on. I'm hoping that happens.
Do you want to go ahead and pick Ole Miss to win now, or do you want to wait till Friday?
I'll pick Ole Miss now.
Okay.
I'll pick Ole Miss. Let's think of a score prediction. I think it'll have to be a shootout.
Okay.
Georgia's going to score.
Okay.
I think Ole Miss
You
has
are right.
to,
Georgia's going to score.
Ole Miss has to score more than 30 to win. So it has to be like the score against A&M. Has to be like 38-35.
Okay.
In order for Ole Miss to win.
So you like 38-35?
I'll take 38-35.
All right. 38. Let me write this down. 38-35 Ole Miss. Upsets the number 2 team in the country.
Biggest win in school history? Rebs.
Is it? Do you just want to go ahead and call it?
Oh, that will be the biggest win in school history.
Okay. Even more so than 2015.
I think so. Yeah. With the way that Georgia's been winning, how they've like 2 years in a row, and they look like they're going for a third. I think it's hard to argue that would be the biggest win.
Okay.
I get it. It's not Nick Saban. It's not the GOAT. But Kirby Smart's early in his career, and he's proven that's a hard team to beat, especially at home. Haven't lost at home in 4 years. Come on, that's got to be.
I mean, Bama just lost at home earlier.
Yeah,
to Texas.
So I would say definitely that'd be the biggest Ole Miss win in school history. Because I
agree with you.
Because then you're actually with the win against Georgia, and I know that there's talk, and Bartu has told us that Ole Miss has to make the SEC championship to have a shot at the college football playoffs.
Has to be. He said to have the wins against top 25 teams because game control's not in Ole Miss's favor.
Right. Haven't blown out.
And the committee loves blowouts. I mean, the one thing that we know is they love. It's why you're seeing some teams put the hammer down. Okay. And anybody who's in the mix has to put the hammer down.
Yes.
Because of game control. Okay.
Yeah, I get. But if Ole Miss beats Georgia, Ole Miss would have to be, no doubt that I think that would be the number one-loss team. Like right now, Texas is 7 or Oregon 6.
Right.
They're 1 loss.
Right.
I think Ole Miss would have to be at least 6. They'd have to be the number one-loss team.
Bama is only a 10.5-point favorite at Kentucky. Now, I watched Kentucky last week. They're not any good. I mean, I know they dominated Mississippi State, but, and I know they took the air out of the ball, but they scored 3 points in the set. I mean, they're a nice, solid team.
Yeah.
That plays hard, well coached on one side of the ball. Don't know what to do offensively, which could, what that could mean? They may not score more than like 7 to 10 points against Bama.
Ooh, that's so,
because Bama's got the best defensive scoring efficiency in the conference, even better than Georgia's.
And the best run team that Bama faced this year, besides Texas. Texas, they kind of did what they wanted. They shut down, and Quinshawn hadn't started going yet, but they didn't let him.
Yeah.
Bentley didn't do anything. And you've seen what he did against what Quinshawn did against A&M. He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Against one of the best SEC defenses, or what's supposed to be most talented, at least one of the most talented.
Right. No, that A&M defense is good.
So, yeah, I could see Kentucky winding up with 3 or 7.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, maybe even if Bama sleepwalks 27-7,
24-7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
They won't be interested, but they're just damn good. They haven't done what they needed to do with Devin Leary. Stoops has never done anything with Will Levis, Devin Leary. You know, they know who they are. They recruit well. They're pretty physical in the trenches, and salty good on defense. And it's going to be a rude awakening. You know, you handed me this on Lane Kiffin earlier today. Mark Stoops has only won 2 SEC games against teams that finish with a winning record. It's been good to be in the East, and that's over next year. So I give Mark Stoops credit. He's making $8+ million a year. He's become insanely wealthy. I think a little of it is game day coach. He's not that good. Offense, hiring, staffing, which most coaches are not good. They don't know. They just hire their buddies. We go over that all the time. They don't really know what they're looking for. He can't get it right on offense, but they're hella good on defense most of the time, Jason. And they have moved up almost 20 spots in composite recruiting since he's been there. Nobody ever does that. Ever. You just don't move up. You move up, you stay within 4 spots, moving up, down.
Why would they ever get rid of him?
Well, you can't stay he's been there a long time. We're about to do away with divisions. He's going to have to figure it out on offense, or they'll start going 5-7, 6-6. But right now, they're on a run. They're winning 7, 8, 9 games, and they're all happy because they're still a hoop school. But they've gotten into football a little bit, which is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, especially recruiting.
I think Bama shuts their offense down this weekend.
Yeah, I just don't see.
And I'm talking, I think it'll be difficult for Kentucky to get to double digits.
Wow.
Yeah, 27-10. I'm not even sure they can do that. I mean, they had a pick 6 last week. They weren't.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. People are asking left and right. I mean, people love a coaching search, don't they? Isn't it amazing?
No doubt. And a QB battle.
QB battles, coaching. You're exactly right. Quarterback battles and quarterback battles and coaching searches. Yeah. Rebel Greg says if Georgia is playing Bowers, they are scared, and they think they need him to beat us.
You heard it here first. Georgia's scared of Ole Miss.
Woo! Rebel Greg's into the Tito's early on a Wednesday. Georgia's scared, so they're playing Bowers. That is brought to you by Hottie Toddy Jason and Landshark Greg. Landshark Rebel Greg on the Ag Up Equipment text line. Go to Canton or Pearl, Ag Up Equipment, and get your next John Deere tractor. AgUp.com. That's AgUp.com.